Mr. Speaker, after 9 years, this NDP Liberal Prime Minister is not worth the crime, chaos, drugs and disorder. Since the request 10 days ago to end deadly legalization, 60 British Columbians have died and the impacts are felt in every community. The Abbotsford Soccer Association has to sweep their fields for dirty needles and deal with open drug use at our community parks. Patrons of the SkyTrain in Surrey Centre fear open use of meth on our transit system. Can the minister provide the date when they will finally cancel this wacko policy?
Now ask the honourable member from Timmins James Bay to please keep his voice quiet unless he's recognised by the Speaker to speak. The Honourable Minister for Mental Health and Addictions.
Mr. Speaker, the pilot program in BC was set forth at BC's request to save lives. They have come to us now to amend their proposal, and working with the BC government, law enforcement, healthcare services to get this right to save lives of people who are dying because of a toxic drug supply is an urgent priority for us, Mr. Speaker.
Again, I'm going to ask all members, please, to hold their comments until they're recognized by the chair. The honourable member from Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
After 9 years of this NDP Liberal Prime Minister is not worth the crime, chaos, drugs, or disorder. It was 10 days ago that the BC government pleaded with this Prime Minister to end this wacko drug policy. There have been 60 overdose deaths since BC begged for this to come to an end. On what day will they finally act and give BC what they're asking for?
Again, I'm going to ask the honourable member from New Westminster Burnaby, please, not to take the floor until he's recognized from doing so. And I know that this is a very difficult issue for many, and so I ask members, please, to listen carefully to the questions.
What are you going to do, man? Kick someone out?
The Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, we have a very effective collaborative relationship with the province of British Columbia, and it is frankly insulting to the province to suggest that the province needs to beg us for anything. The province has serious concerns about their pilot project. We share their concerns, and we are working collaboratively and effectively to address those concerns. What we're not doing is playing partisan politics with the lives of real people.
Yeah, you are. You weaponize
the honourable member
shootings and shit like that.
After 9 years, this NDP Liberal Prime Minister is not worth the crime, chaos, drugs and disorder. The BC government sent the Prime Minister all the information he needs to end his wacko drug policy experiment. In his 10 days of inaction, it's estimated 60 British Columbians' lives have been tragically lost to overdoses. Wacko drug policies have the RCMP citing government-supplied drugs being diverted, and open drug use of crack in hospital rooms, meth in restaurants, fentanyl in parks and playgrounds. How many more days will it take this Prime Minister to end his failed drug policy experiment?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and of course, all members in this House are absolutely ripped apart by what we're seeing the opioid crisis do across this country. The responsibility that we have to the families who've lost loved ones, to people who are in crisis right now, is to make sure that we follow evidence. And the reality is, Mr. Speaker, that the ideas proposed by the Conservatives have been tried and failed everywhere they've been tried. And that if we're going to have honest conversations, holding out false solutions is very disappointing on a subject so sensitive. We need to work collaboratively in an evidence-based way to make sure that we do everything we can to get this right, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, over 1.9 million seniors 65 and over have successfully applied for Canadian Dental Care Plan. Conservative chose to vote against funding toward the CDCP. However, the numbers speak for itself and have demonstrated Canadians' overwhelming support for this program. Can the Minister please update the House on the impacts of the work being done to provide access to dental care for Canadians?
The The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I want to start by thanking the member for Richmond Hill for all of his work to promote.
The Chair has been pretty patient with the member from Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan, on calling out when he doesn't have the chair. I'm going to ask him, please, to listen respectfully to the questions that are asked and to the answers that are given. The Honourable Minister from Health can start from the top, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to start by thanking the member for Richmond Hill, who has been such an incredible advocate to making sure all Canadians get the oral health care they deserve. And I want to say that in the first 3 days, we've had just extraordinary results, Mr. Speaker.
We can't afford food.
Seniors have already, in fact,
but
more
we'll
than
have
15,000 seniors just in the first 3 days have already gotten service. And when you think about that, Mr. Speaker, it's a fundamental issue of dignity and prevention. Those are seniors who aren't going to wind up in a hospital room. Mr. Speaker, we need to continue that momentum. More than 8,000 dentists have now signed up, with more and more signing up every day. We're going to get
more dentists are signing up just in time for more doctors to leave.
The Honourable Member from Wellington, Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, on April 11th, the Prime Minister said that it wasn't simply an overall the election was free and fair, but that in every single constituency election, election integrity held and it was free and fair. Justice Hogue concluded otherwise. She concluded that well-grounded suspicions about PRC interference in Don Valley North could, quote, could have impacted who was elected to Parliament. This is significant, end quote. Does the government agree with Justice Hogue that PRC interference could have impacted who was elected to Parliament in Don Valley North?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, we agree with Justice Hogue that there has been an increase in foreign state actors, hostile state actors, seeking to interfere in the Canadian democratic process. Obviously, that takes place.
But not enough to actually affect the outcome of the elections, right?
Saying that this is the case for a very small number of constituencies, and she is not able to draw definitive conclusions as to the extent of that impact. So I understand my honourable friend is identifying some of what Justice Hogue said. I think it's important to put it in the context that she herself did.
The Honourable Member from Wellington, Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, I'll tell the government what Justice Hogue concluded in Steveston, Richmond East. She found that, quote, there are strong indications of PRC involvement, and there is a reasonable possibility that these narratives could have impacted the result in this riding. Again, the Prime Minister said just several weeks ago that every single constituency election integrity held, and it was free and fair. Does the government agree with Justice Hogue that PRC interference could have impacted the election result in Steveston, Richmond East?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, we think that Justice Hogue has done a very serious job in terms of understanding the extent and nature of foreign interference and helping Canadians understand also the tactics that foreign hostile state actors may use and how they seek to undermine the confidence of Canadians in democracy. So I think we should be very careful, Mr. Speaker, before we take out of context specific things that Justice Hogue has said. Our government, unlike the government that was in office before 2015, has taken this matter seriously and will continue to do everything necessary, Mr. Speaker, in this regard.
The Honourable Member from Leeds-Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
The Liberal Employment Minister got caught cashing checks from his secret lobbying business. Turns out his own department got lobbied and then gave $10 million out, and the minister himself announced it. After 9 years of this NDP Liberal government, it's clear they're not worth the cost or that corruption. How much did the minister pocket, and is the government prepared today to announce that they're going to have the RCMP investigate this latest Liberal scandal?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
The minister has, of course, addressed that matter, Mr. Speaker, but let's talk about the member for Leeds-Grenville, who in this House, in an alarming way last week, failed to rule out using the notwithstanding clause to deny the right of women to reproductive services in this country. There are 80 members of that caucus who have green or yellow lights from the Campaign Life Coalition.
That's right.
Who is going to be standing up over there to make sure that the rights of women are protected against these conservatives' anti-choicers?
The honourable member